Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Paul Reimer, and I'm so glad that you're joining me this evening to explore another wonderful topic around young children's learning. And just excited to be here with you all. We have just a few people continuing to join, and thanks for saying hello in the chat. Again, my name is Paul Reimer. I am the executive director of the Ames Center in Fresno, California, right in the center of California. And Ames is a research and practice nonprofit that focuses on supporting creative and hands-on approaches to teaching math and science. And in particularly, we're focused on early childhood and ways that we can support a more playful and creative learning journey for young children. And we do that through professional development, through developing resources, hosting events, and just by doing a lot of playing together. So I hope that you are ready to do a little bit of thinking together and playing together. Great to hear and see all of you joining. Thank you so much for the greetings. If you haven't yet, would you please just say a hello in the chat, maybe where you're from, where you're joining us from. And I'd like to actually just start with one other item. If you currently work with young children or have done that in the past, or work with educators who work with young children, would like to just get us going today by putting one thing in the chat today, one thing that you enjoy about working with young children. What really motivates your work, and what's something that you enjoy about working with young children? So just sort of post that in the chat, and let's get some thoughts going around some of the things that really drive our work, things that we enjoy. And I'll just go ahead and shout out a few of these things. Children's eagerness to learn and explore, thanks Dolores. Watching them learn, loving children's honesty and their creativity, imaginations. Wonderful. Love how a child can, almost anything seems possible with a child. Wonderful. Seeing them enjoy their learning and the gears going, how creative they are, seeing their development, their joy, enjoying their environment, seeing growth in children daily. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. I think it's so important for all of us in this work to continually remind ourselves and remind others about the powerful motivators of why we do this work, why we're interested in children's learning. It's important work. It's human-centered work, and I'm glad that we can spend some time here this evening talking about it together. I just want to also invite you to be interactive in the session. If you have questions or thoughts or comments, please feel free to use the chat feature and share your ideas, and let's make this a collaborative session. So I have just a few slides that I'd like to share here as well today. And as we get started, just kind of highlighting a bit of what we'll be talking about this evening is exploring computational thinking through construction play. So a couple things there: computational thinking and construction play. And in this session today, we'll be really looking to connect these two things: children's construction play and computational thinking. And we're going to do that through looking at how young children can create and develop mazes for a robotic bug to explore. If you've never heard of or seen a robotic bug, tonight is your lucky night, because we'll be looking at those a bit. I wish we could all be in one room together where we could be playing hands-on together, but we'll do our best through this virtual environment. And with attention on the ways that children explore computational thinking concepts and practices in their play. And then we'll end our session with some practical implementation insights and would love to hear from you, especially in that portion of our session, on ways that you think you could incorporate this activity into your own setting. So robotic bug, you may be kind of just right off the bat thinking, what in the world is a robotic bug? Well, it's possible that you've seen these before and just didn't know necessarily what they were exactly called. So I'll give you a little demonstration here. This is a robotic bug. It's a small, kind of a rubber-coated vibrating bug. It's got a motor inside that vibrates, and it's got some little legs here. And once you set it down, it just decides to go in its own path, sort of a random movement. I'll turn on the orange bug, and then I will also turn on the green bug. And you can see these bugs. You can even probably hear them moving about in that, which is basically a lid, a shoebox lid. And these bugs just move about, and then they'll kind of flip on their side sometimes, and then they possibly will flip over and get back going again. The vibrating motor keeps them moving, and the little feet keep them just sort of on the surface of the box. So yes, in some cases, this is called a hex bug. I see Tracy, yes. And yeah, these are just really, really kind of interesting, fun little bugs. So some of you are already getting some creative ideas and thinking about these. And I'm just going to take a moment to turn them off. So one of the things today that we'll be talking about is some ways that we can think about how these robotic bugs can be used in children's play. But before we get to that point, we'll take some time to sort of set the stage a bit for how children's construction play and computational thinking might fit together for really exciting and playful learning outcomes for children. And we'll just start with Seymour Papert. Seymour Papert was a founder of the idea of constructionism, which is built on constructivism, the idea that we all construct understanding of our environments, of the world around us through active engagement. And we create understanding and we create ideas through our experiential learning and through our interactions with others. And Seymour Papert took this idea, it's really an epistemology, it's a way of thinking about how knowledge is developed and shared. And Papert said that we really do this sharing of knowledge through constructing things, artifacts that are personally meaningful to us, that are socially meaningful. And he really believed that through that construction process, even young children can learn to both create and share things that they're thinking about, things that they're learning. Papert also was the inventor of Logo, which is a computer programming language that was used to program. And what you can see in the picture here, he has a large apparatus. It's called a turtle. And you could program this turtle to move in different directions. It could draw pictures on paper. And Papert believed that very, very young children could experience this sort of embodied learning by even walking a route before a robot would be programmed to walk a route. So his powerful ideas that Seymour Papert shared through his work in the field and through his writing and through his lab that he developed really help us think about ways that we can construct things that are shareable with others, that represent what it is that we're understanding and what it is that we're learning. And also, Papert's powerful ideas around this computational thinking are also really folded very nicely into our here in California or in our nation, the K-12 computer science framework. And how wonderful it is to see that at the early childhood levels, that integrating these powerful ideas into the computer science and early childhood education field involves not just one discipline such as mathematics, but it gives us opportunities to really think about how math is connected with science, how it's connected with literacy, and how those are all supported and kind of bolstered by the idea of play, the social and emotional benefits of play, as well as the ways that play ushers in learning experiences for young children. At the center of this graphic, we see some of the very powerful ideas that go across all of the content areas for young children: patterns, problem solving, representation, and sequencing, just to name a few. These are things that young children experience in their daily lives and in their routines, whether they're thinking about a routine for getting up in the morning and getting ready, whether they're looking at a pattern that they see in nature, such as the petals around a flower, or whether they're doing some problem solving that involves a more complicated thinking or multi-step kinds of tasks. So we'll take some time now to think a little bit more about computational thinking. What is computational thinking? It has two words. It has thinking, and then it has computational, which is kind of like a computer, but what does it really mean? Well, Jeanette Wing in 2006 built on Pappert's work and really came up with the idea that computational thinking is a set of problem-solving skills, approaches, and processes. It's really used in computer science, but it has a lot of application across all areas of critical thinking and problem solving. And there are a few agreed upon sort of big ideas in computational thinking that are really about the practices and the concepts that we would all go through or encounter in computational thinking. Computational thinking involves algorithms and sequencing, patterns, decomposition and modularity, abstraction and representation, testing and debugging, and conditional logic and loops. Now, some of this may sound familiar to you, but some of these things may also sound unfamiliar to you. And so we won't have the time this evening to go into all of these and to kind of dig into them. But we are going to be talking a little bit about number 5, testing and debugging. Have you ever gotten into a situation where you've tried something and it hasn't quite worked out the way you expected it to? Maybe you've built something, a piece of furniture that has come to you that is not assembled, and you pull out some instructions and you look at those and you follow those instructions, but for some reason you have 3 or 4 screws left over at the end and your dresser doesn't quite look like it's supposed to. Or maybe it doesn't quite open or close, the drawers are not smooth. And you have to figure out, where did I go wrong? Let me look back at the directions. Let me figure out how I can change this a little bit and make it better. So testing and debugging is that process of looking at a series of processes or instructions, and it's testing them out and figuring out where the mistakes are or where the bugs are and how to fix those to create something that accomplishes what you expect it to accomplish. And that's a very, very important skill for even the youngest of children to develop. And today we'll look at a few ways that young children could do that. So we know a little bit about computational thinking, and we know we're going to focus a little bit on testing and debugging this evening as we think about young children's activity. But why is computational thinking important? Here's just a few ideas. Studies that have shown computational thinking is important haven't really looked at how they're implemented in play-based early childhood classrooms. These are ideas that young children can experience in powerful ways. But how do they do that? Second, the core concepts of computational thinking, such as sequencing or algorithmic thinking or debugging, can give young learners opportunities to apply their creativity and problem-solving capacity. And we know that problem solving and critical thinking and creativity are crucial experiences for young children. And thirdly, we know that computational thinking has helped young learners develop social and motor skills, as well as increase their competency in other academic areas. So computational thinking is important. But what does it look like in a play-based classroom? So here are just a few examples. If you've ever heard of the online platform called Scratch, Scratch Junior is targeted at younger children, and it gives them a chance to create programs, to create instructions for characters to complete in an online web-based platform. Also, there are many robotics kits, and you probably have seen some of these, where children can program robots to move in different ways. We even see one in the bottom left where there are some markers attached to it, so the robot is actually drawing as it travels on the butcher paper. And the middle example is a young child taking tiles and putting them in order, sequencing those tiles so that the robot will move in a series of direction to accomplish a particular task or to arrive somewhere on the map. We also see on the right a Kibo robot. This is another kind of a robot that's programmed with blocks. So it's blocks that are put in a particular order, and each block tells the robot to do something in particular. So all of these examples have to do with programming, writing instructions for a robot or for somebody or for another person to accomplish. But what if we want to consider some of the important things that we know about the importance of both screen coding, but also things that are screen-less coding, where children are really having opportunities to play with materials, with things, with hands-on learning. There are concerns in the early childhood field about screen time and about how much time children do spend on screens, and coding and using screens to do that is an important skill for children to develop. But in this session tonight, I'm proposing that we also think about hands-on construction play. And could hands-on construction play actually offer some great benefits into computational thinking? I think so, and I hope that you will agree with me by the end of the session. So just a few things about construction play. How is this important for young children in early learning environments? Well, construction play is critical for young learners. It offers children a variety of experiences with materials, hands-on things that they can manipulate and change. Like Papert said, they can construct things that they can share with others that represent their thinking. Not only that, but as children tinker with things and change their designs, they are able to engage in world building, storytelling, imagination, and role playing. So construction play has many benefits and affords young children many opportunities to learn and to really incorporate some of what we know from decades of research about children's learning experiences into their learning. So construction play and tinkering, computational thinking, in particular, testing and debugging, how do these things go together? Well, we've already been introduced to the hex bugs, but just to tell you a little bit more about them. Children can control the hex bug, the movement of the hex bug, not through commands or codes or putting out blocks of instructions, but by constructing an environment that causes the robot to move in specific ways. So in many, many ways, children are always adapting to their environment, but also changing their environment. And in this activity, children have the experience to change their environment, to control and to program the hex bug to move in a particular way. But first, it's always important to explore the materials. We encourage children to just have some free play with the bug. So we start this activity by saying, how does the bug feel in your hand? How does the bug move? What kinds of ways does this is sort of like the bug uh, sort of interact in your hand. So by just holding the bug in your hand, it gives a wonderful opportunity to explore how it feels. So we encourage just to hold it, and it vibrates and it kind of wiggles a little bit and it moves on its side. Sometimes children say it sort of tickles, but they can tell there's a movement and there's a vibration. Then, how does the bug move? Sometimes children get delighted by this sort of frantic movement of the bug as it sort of skitters about. And when it bounces off the walls, we see different ways that it sort of interacts with the walls. Then the second part of this is really to think about, how does the bug interact with the environment? So we can already see the bug is in a particular environment here with borders. And so the bug can't roll off or can't skitter off the table. It's bouncing around off the walls. If I put an object in the middle here, you can see how the bug will interact with that object. So all of a sudden now I've sort of programmed the bug to sort of stay in that upper half of the box lid, unless it manages to go down the side here, and then it can go into the bottom. But also that bug's movement is changed because of that wood block that's in the middle. It's created a different way for the bug to move around in its environment. And if I add another bug, there will be also additional ways for those two bugs to interact, even as they sort of maybe bounce off each other or move in different ways. So I would like to offer everyone here tonight an opportunity to do a little bit of programming with the bug. But the way that we'll do that is to have you have an opportunity to think about creating a maze for the bug. So I have a website here that's on the slide. This is mathlearningcenter.org, and it says GeoBoard after that. So if you're able, I would encourage you or invite you to go to that website. And when you do get to that website, you will see a GeoBoard and an opportunity to stretch some bands over some different pegs to create a design. But in this case, I want to encourage you and invite you to take a few minutes to create a maze. This will be, you are going to program the bug to move in a particular way by creating some barriers, using those rubber bands to create the barriers. So I'm going to change my slides here briefly. And this is the website for the GeoBoard. And so I'm going to just plop this into the chat. And if you have time and you're able to at this point, I'd encourage you to go to this website and to create a GeoBoard design. And just to sort of demonstrate how to do that, you take a rubber band from the bottom here and you're able to place it on a peg, and then you're able to stretch that and latch it onto another peg. You can use a peg, you can create a band here, you can put a rubber band on another peg, and you can create a border. So I would love for you all to be able to take some time to just create a bit of a maze, explore this tool just a bit, and then I'll share with you a maze that I have here, and we'll just sort of watch the bug as it goes through the maze. And we'll do a little bit of testing and debugging together as we think about where we want to get our bug to go. I know right off the bat that my bug is going to fly right off of this GeoBoard. So I think what I'm going to do is just create a nice sort of boundary for that bug to stay inside. So I'll just create here a bit of a boundary for that bug. Now I know if I put the bug inside the GeoBoard, it will stay put. But if I want the bug to move around on the board in any kind of a pattern, I know I'm going to have to add some more details to that. So let me see what I can do. Okay. Here I have my geoboard with the 4 bands around the outside, just kind of like I have in my geoboard model there, and I can put the bug inside and see what that bug does. Oh, I can see that bug gets a little stuck in the corner. That's not great movement, and I kind of want that bug to keep moving around, but it seems to have gotten kind of stuck in that corner. I was able to sort of bump it away a little bit, and it kind of moved. But we might want to change that design a little bit to not so that bug doesn't get stuck there in the corner. If you have some ideas in the chat of what we could do with that, I'd love to see what you're thinking. Ah, Amanda, need a bigger geoboard. Yes, certainly. Other ideas about how we might be able to do that? Oh, Judith Ann says angle bands. Oh, and Deborah says 45 degrees. Make a diagonal in the corner. Aha. Okay. Block the corner. All right. So let's see if we can do that. Let's see if everybody agrees that this is sort of what we're talking about here. Maybe I'll just add another band on my model here and sort of do this triangle. Ah, okay. All right. Let's give that a shot here. I think I'll just take this band and stretch it over to this peg here, creating that corner. And let's see what happens now. Oh, it worked. Did you see that? It hit that corner and kind of bounced off. Oh, it's getting a little bit stuck here between this little peg. I think somebody was right. A bigger geoboard might be helpful. But that angle worked really well to bounce that off the corner. There it worked again. Wonderful. Excellent. Wow. Yeah, and then we might even decide to do some other kinds of shapes. We can create some other sort of barriers to see what might happen. Maybe I put a band right down the middle. This one's a little bit long, so I'm just going to bend it around and back. We'll kind of see how that band changes the movement. Oh, okay, sort of like the block. You can see the robot bug sort of did some circles there. Hits that band and then bounces around. Okay. Well, as you can see, we're able to really think about many different ways to explore testing and debugging with the geoboard as just a model, as an environment. It's a very controlled environment. The geoboard is the environment for the bug, and we can create a structure here that will control the bug's movement. And a lot of what we did was just testing things out, trying them. A number of you gave the great idea to try an angled band to block that corner, and we tried that, and then it really worked out quite well. So we're going to take some time now to think about some other ways that we might see young children doing this sort of construction play with computational thinking and the hex bugs. So we had the real joy of introducing this activity and the bugs into some preschool classrooms. And rather than just using a geoboard, we encouraged teachers and children to just explore the bugs, but to also do that with a variety of different materials that they may have on hand. In this picture, you see in particular, we looked at how the bugs interacted with solid tubes, with half tubes, and with wooden blocks. So these were the materials that our 3 and 4-year-olds used to explore the bug's movement and to control the bug's movement. And you can see on the bottom right, already we see some children making 2 barriers and watching the bug travel between those 2 barriers. So they're already designing something that can control the bug's movement. And they found very quickly that that could move the bug from one point to another point by creating 2 straight paths with wooden blocks. As they played with the bugs and as they explored the ways that these materials would interact with the bugs, they found that they started to want to try to do things. They had some goals that emerged. And we know that in play, children can create their own goals and create their own rules, and playful experiences that land a little bit more on the free play side with a little bit of structure can be quite constructive and quite beneficial for young children. So I want to share just a few highlights from this experience with the 3 and 4-year-olds in the preschool classroom. Some of the different goals that emerged from their play. Some children explored how far they could make the bug travel. Other children tried to guide the bug to a desired location. Groups of children worked together to make a path through the classroom or created races with other bugs. And all of these things require children to engage in testing and debugging. So they would try a design, arrange it with their materials, they would release the bug to travel, they would then collect the bug, rearrange the path, and release the bug again. And this cycle over and over of testing, changing the design, trying it again, is an extremely valuable practice for computational thinking, but it's also a wonderful practice for many different aspects of learning. Increases children's persistence. They don't see mistakes as failures, they see them as opportunities to change and to adapt. So I just want to take a few minutes now to highlight some of the sort of key moments that we found in this work where children were experiencing this testing and debugging in their work together and in their play together. Children in this example were testing what happens when 2 hex bugs were in the same tube, and you can see closely there. They are both supporting the tube, so there's coordinated movement with their hands. One child has a hand ready to catch the bugs as they exit the tube. And so they're also sort of playing with the slope of the tube to encourage the bugs to travel in a certain direction. In this example, we see 3 children together collaborating to create a corral for the bug that would keep the bug on the table. So we see the pattern of the blocks around the perimeter, and then we see 2 bugs inside. We see several children that are adjusting, straightening out the blocks around, making sure there aren't gaps or holes. But also what they find is if it's too narrow a space, the bug doesn't have room to turn around and go a different direction. So they work together to make sure that it's wide enough to allow the bug a chance to turn around and move as they coordinate in their play. We also see some tubes here. Some are clear, some are cardboard, some are PVC pipe tubes. Those all have different benefits. The PVC tube is very smooth inside, but you can't see where the bug is. The clear tube provides opportunities to see the bug and to watch it travel. So a variety of these tubes as materials were very helpful. In these examples, we see children problem solving together and communicating as they're creating long paths for the hex bug to travel. And I love in the bottom right picture that the teacher is on the floor with the children, right in the mess of the play, constructing, helping, materials are there. There's a lot of coordination and cooperative play going on. We see one child releasing the bug, another child holding the tube. We see there being opportunities to connect tubes together. In the left photo, we see that the children figured out that one tube could fit inside the other tube and create a very nice connection in which the bug would not escape or fall out of that. There are also some blocks for creating ramps and different kinds of paths. And then in these pictures, we see children really testing and debugging their designs. They were doing some troubleshooting. There were things that didn't quite work out the way they wanted to. In the bottom left, we see the teacher sort of modeling a way to bring some stability to the design. In the play, thinking about bringing the blocks on either side of the tube creates a bit of stability so the tube doesn't roll. But then again, there's also sort of that connecting tubes together. And so children are looking at ways to do that using the half tubes in between the solid tubes and a variety of different attempts to do that. Their goal in these examples were to create the longest path they could. And that was not a goal that was stated by the teacher or stated by anybody that was sort of facilitating the play. That was a goal that the children themselves decided. And in their play, they coordinated together to make that happen. So just to sort of summarize what we've talked about so far this evening is construction play with robots is a rich playground for merging of computational thinking practices, in particular, as we talked about tonight, testing and then fixing it, debugging, with play-based learning affordances. And the many things that we saw tonight in play-based learning or opportunities to try things out, ways to set our own goals, coordinating play and movement with others, using a variety of materials in different ways and creative ways. And just want to also share some of the work that's gone into this this design. Really looks at, again, not programming the robot with a set of code, but by programming the environment. So I want to share this quote from some work in 2020 that was similar to this around building for robots. The shift toward constructing for the robots introduces productive interplay between the construction and programming components of the activity, where constructing for the robot can influence what is programmed, while authoring the program shapes the way the world is constructed around the robot. We firmly believe that children need opportunities to create worlds, to create imaginative settings where uh, where characters can interact. And believe me, children become attached to these and they become characters in stories. And very quickly, the bug is trying to get somewhere, or the bug is trying to climb the hill, or the bug is trying to reach its other bug family members. And these become characters in stories as children build worlds for them to navigate and to travel. So, getting started, how can you try this in your environment? How might you see opportunities for children to engage in this activity in the work that you do? And maybe you've done a similar activity. Maybe you've also played with this kind of construction around bugs or around robots. So I'm curious. I'd like to hear from you all, and feel free to use the chat. So think about setting up your space. Where do you imagine this activity taking place? You can really think about classroom carpet space. That was sort of the largest space we talked about and saw tonight. We also saw a very small space, the very small space of a geoboard. And so think about what kind of a space might be provided for this kind of activity. And do you have a space where you might want to set this up? Another thing to think about is, what materials do you already have? What materials are children already familiar with? And how can those materials encourage testing and debugging and other kinds of CT or computational thinking practices? we found that children loved using materials that they already were familiar with. Some of the tubes and those kinds of things they had used in a unit that they had studied, a curricular unit that was all about tubes and tunnels. They had just gotten through studying about tubes and tunnels, and so this activity, they were excited to use the tubes and watch the robot bugs travel through the tubes. I'm seeing some other ideas in the chat um, about different kinds of things that you could use: magnetic blocks or rug rolls or hollow blocks. Um, and all sorts of things. And engineering areas are great places to do that, where you have maybe ramps and boxes and all kinds of things. Yeah, I see in the chat too, a train table might be a great place to incorporate this into as well. Many opportunities to incorporate literature into this practice as well. Many opportunities to connect to other kinds of disciplinary connections in the various disciplines that students are learning about, whether it's through science or technology, through literature, through the arts, and so on. And then thirdly, how will you encourage children to collaborate in their play? One of the things that we found about this activity is that at the beginning, children really loved to interact with the bug on their own and kind of get to know it. But as they started to construct, that natural collaboration occurred. So sometimes giving a small group of children one bug to work with together and to build with is helpful. You can control the kinds of materials that children have to really encourage that sort of collaboration. And then I really love the idea too about documenting that sort of collaborative play. So maybe children are able to draw a picture of what they've created, or maybe there are other ways to sort of display the world that they've created, and it could include some various ways of expressing art, or through different structures that they create that can go into that world as well. And then finally, what elements storytelling, world building, and imaginative play might you encourage in this activity? And those were some of the things that we talked about as really part of that, part of the core of the constructionist framework, is that we all build and construct, whether it's ideas, whether it's worlds or environments around us. We construct things that are personal, that are meaningful. We construct things that are useful, and they draw deep on the ideas that we have as people and as learners. So this activity also really offers many rich opportunities to be able to encourage that sort of activity through the storytelling and the narratives that children develop along with their activities. Love the ideas about artists and adding art to the bugs and creating, maybe they're even sort of natural scenes, or maybe they're bugs in the city. Many opportunities. I want to thank you all so much for being here this evening as we come to the close of the presentation. Again, my name was Paul Reimer with the Ames Center. We would love to see you at some of our other events. We have online virtual events, and you can visit our website at amescenter.org. In February, we're exploring light and shadow. In March, we're exploring engineering and structures. And in April, we're doing some art with different tessellations. So join us at one of our events. They are online. They are also in person if you're in the Fresno area. We would love to see you, and all the best as you continue to make a difference in the lives of young children through playful early learning experiences. It's been a joy to be with you, and I wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you, everybody.